And I'm going to name this one first, give everyone in the audience and you, Mark, to guess on this. Texas is the first back-to-back school and actually second ever with the first running back taken off the board in back-to-back drafts. So I'll let you focus and see if you can get that one. But here's some stats. They were second in the draft, like Mark said, behind Michigan. It's the first time since 2007 with multiple first-round picks. Since 2007, only 5 players have been taken in the first round. That one killed me. 17 years, 5 guys. We had 2 this year. There's a chance you could have 2 or 3 next year. So you could have 4 or 5 guys in the past 2 years. And then another thing that gets you excited, we're second in the SEC in returning production, 25th in the country. So it might be a little bit back. Like we probably won't have 11 guys drafted next year, but there's a possibility we have 8 or 9. And that's 20 guys in 2 years. That's really, really good. And like I said, we're the second school. We'll come back to it with back-to-back running backs taken first overall. No one's done it 3 times, and there's a possibility we could do that with Jaden Blue. Mark, do you have a guess on this? I'm guessing you know the school, but do you know the years and the player?
I really don't know the school. I'm guessing since you believe that I know it or would have a good shot at it, that it's fairly recent.
It is. It is 2012 and 2011.
Then it's Alabama.
That would be correct with
Trent Richardson and
Mark Ingram.
Oh, okay. Mark Ingram. Yeah. Heisman Trophy winner.
So
I thought that was a little bit late for him, but yeah, he played in 2010. Yeah.
So Texas has a chance to do something no one's ever done. If Jaden Blue can, put on the field what we expect him to, we could have 3 guys come off the board first with Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Brooks, and then Jaden Blue. So that's something very impressive. And it breaks the Texas modern day record with 11 players drafted in a 7-round era. And think about this. This is in Steve Sarkisian's 3rd year. Like during the height of Mac Brown, he was getting 7 guys was his max in the draft. So this is something to look forward to. I don't think we've hit the ceiling here. I really don't believe that. There's a possibility next year. I think you're going to have for sure 1 guy taken in the first round. Kelvin Banks, as long as he doesn't get hurt, will be a first-round pick. He's the type of guy, too, where if you look at next year's draft class, the quarterbacks aren't as good and the wide receivers aren't as good. We could be talking about a number 1 overall pick from Texas. That is a real possibility with Kelvin Banks. I think Quinn Ewers is in that mix as well if he has a Heisman-type campaign. So I think those are 2 guys you need to look forward to in next year's draft if you're a Texas fan. Ethan Burke is a name that people are really high on. He had 5.5 sacks last year, and if not for it, he was playing on a torn meniscus the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season. He probably ends up with 8 or 9 sacks. He's a big, long, lengthy guy that can still put a lot of muscle on his frame. I've seen him in every future mock draft in the teens. So if he has a really good year, I could see him getting taken in the first round as well. So there's 3 or 4 guys to keep an eye out on for Texas. Isaiah Bond, I could see having a really good year in a down wide receiver class. And that's another thing, too, people got to realize. This was a very good wide receiver class. If A.D. Mitchell decided to come back to school, he's probably a first-round pick in next year's draft because next year's wide receiver class isn't as good. So overall, an impressive showing. I think Tavondre Sweat also surprised people. He went in the 2nd round with a DWI 2 weeks before the draft. If he doesn't have that DWI, there's a real chance he goes in the back of the first round, maybe top of the 2nd round. But overall, a really good showing. Everyone that got drafted or I thought would get drafted, got drafted. I was kind of surprised with Keelan Robinson. I mean, he went in the 5th round. That was higher than I thought for him. I think he's got a real shot on that Jaguars roster because other than Travis Etienne back there, they don't really have a solidified running back. So if he can, his biggest thing is balance. The guy's got insane speed, even for the NFL standards. So if he can just stay on his feet, that was always his issue. When he cut, he slipped. If he can get some better cleats or something, I think there's a real possibility he could have a good career in the NFL and more than just a special teams player like I thought. So really good showing in the NFL draft. It was also just exciting because when A.D. Mitchell started to fall, Mark, Texas Twitter was engaged. Texas Twitter was like, man, why is he falling? Why is he falling? And this is something we're not used to. The last 2 to 3 years haven't been this way. It's been last year was Bijan Robinson. Once he went off the board, we kind of lost interest. But we were interested all the way 1 through 6. Basically, once Jordan Whittington got picked, we didn't really care about round 7. But just a really cool couple days for the Texas program and Texas fans.
Get the man some cleats. You would think that they would take care of that at Texas. Maybe they will in the NFL. And the other oddity there, of course, as Matthew brings up the trivia concerning back-to-back first running back taken off the board, matching Alabama, and then possibly Jadon Blue being the next to make it 3 in a row. And then mentioning Keelan Robinson, because my little nugget there was going to be, can anybody in the chat name a running back who had 12 carries who got drafted? I think he had 12 carries last year.
And I think he's had his career is under 400 snaps. So you're basically drafting him based off of which he is one of the best special teams players I've ever seen in college and his speed. That's what you're drafting. And I think a team looks at him and says, you know what? If we can teach him some concepts in the NFL and he's also a pretty good pass catcher, he'll be on a roster for a pretty long time because a 3-down back is hard to find. And he's not a bad blocker when he was in. He just honestly didn't get the chance because you're behind Bijan Robinson. You're behind Roschon Johnson. You're behind Jonathan Brooks. It's really hard to show out behind those guys.
So I'm going to go the tough question route because the obvious question route is when we talk to somebody like yourself that's all over the roster and the personnel. It's, okay, obviously the guys at the top of the board are expected to succeed. Who are the sleepers? Who are the guys that are going to break out? All that business. Is there anybody in here who could disappoint? Is there anybody that's overdrafted here?
Okay, let me think about this. So I don't think it would be very hard for me to see Xavier Worthy disappoint in Kansas City. I'd be shocked just because you have the scheme. They're just going to use him like Tyreek Hill, and he's just as fast. And I honestly think he's a little bit better of a route runner. So I don't see that. I think A.D. Mitchell was kind of pissed off and honestly went into another great situation with Indianapolis. You're playing in a dome with a decent quarterback, in my opinion, in Anthony Richardson. I thought he played well when he was healthy. And then you have Shane Steichen, who's also a good offensive coordinator with the Eagles, now the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Byron Murphy, again, I think he's just the closest prospect I've seen in a long time to Aaron Donald. I know that's a lot of pressure. I think, honestly, T'Vondre Sweat. I think there's a world in which T'Vondre Sweat eats himself out of the league, or he honestly just doesn't fit in modern day football. He's not a great passer. He's okay. He's a really good run stuffer. So I think he's very scheme dependent. So he's in one of those situations where if he doesn't buckle down and start to take football more seriously, I could see to where he gets very few chances and then he's out of the league. So that'd be the one guy. It's the guy that I know you didn't ask me, Sleeper, but I think Jordan Whittington in that Rams offense is going to be very good. I think he's going to be used very well. I think you're going to see him out of the backfield because people forget this guy was a running back out of high school and a very good running back. He broke the state record his senior year of high school with all-around purpose yards in a state championship game. He had 520-something yards. He broke Eric Dickerson's longtime record. So him and a Sean McVay offense, I think the Rams got a steal, and I think it was the late 6th, early 7th round. So that would be my sleeper. I know you didn't ask that, but I think T'Vondre Sweat is the one guy that I could see have an issue in the NFL.